Hey, Canteeners, welcome back to episode 79 of Culper's Canteen Cup. Big shout out to Carlton Zeus for that intro. I had a long drive yesterday and I listened to two entire albums of Carlton Zeus and made the miles go by faster there. And I got to, first of all, give a shout out to a great Airbnb I stayed in Apache Junction on, I guess that was Saturday and Sunday night. No, Friday and Saturday night, man. Dude, this place was awesome, man. All the bourbon you could drink for free. They let you leave with like 3 or 4 bottles, and then on the last morning you're there, they for breakfast they cook you authentic Korean ramen. It was freaking cooked by a Korean, by the
Cooked by
way.
a Korean.
It
Yeah.
was awesome, dude. So yeah, it's been a couple weeks. I don't know if the other two guys have been busy, but I have over the past couple weeks. Real eye opening stuff that maybe we'll talk about down the road. But we got a lot of positive feedback from our last episode, kind of the format we had there, and we might kind of do that again this episode a little bit. Maybe focus on some topics a little more than others because I don't know if anybody's noticed what's going on in Ukraine with the inflation, with Hillary Clinton throwing her hat back in the ring, all this stuff. But first of all, I want to get Roger's opinion on the rollout of truth.com. I think he was a little bit hot and bothered about that this morning, Roger. So what's up with truth.com?
Yeah, I think it's Truth Social, right? So that's been the one, that's the big one that, Trump's social media platform that he came out with that's supposed to combat Twitter. And I haven't been able to use it yet. I've only seen screenshots. Last night, I got the App Store. I pre-ordered it. So I get on there, I get the App Store. It finally lets me download. I'm like, oh shit, here we go. So I sign up and it's just, dude, right off the bat. And I don't, again, this is not like political. I don't care if you're left, right, indifferent, whatever. Like you're going to roll something out like that. The resources it requires, especially we're not talking about like, us three douchebags with Culper's Canteen Cup that like, oh yeah, we might need some more bandwidth because we've got 8 listeners now, right? Where we're paying, we pay like by the minute when we record. It's kind of like a prepaid, track phone or something like that. But when you're Donald Trump, you're the former president, you get billions of dollars. It's like, hey guys, my first thing would be, the graphic user interface has got to be intuitive. Okay. But so when people get on there, it's got to look sexy. It's got to be easy. And people, I don't want to see the digital FAQ and software documentation. I just need to be able to get on there and like, hey, there's a plus sign that usually means add. There's a little bubble here that usually means comment, something like that. But before that, you have to fucking be able to sign up on the damn thing, right? And this goes back to not just Truth Social, but with all, we've talked about the Gabs. Gab went through it I'm telling you, going back to Gab, which I thought had a lot of promise. I believe this is what stifled their growth because like I'm willing to give it a day or two. Like, so Truth Social, going back to that, you get on there and it's the typical stuff. How old are you? I actually got the prompt to put in my phone number, which everything I've been reading is, put in your email address. So maybe I had the Chinese version of it or whatever. But it is kind of funny because the truth does come out because I've always said I liked a lot of the policies of Donald Trump. I thought he was good for our country, and I really like what he stood for regarding our country. And as a president, as a human being, that I'm not hiring that dude to babysit my kids. That just ain't happening. I don't have that much that much faith in the human side of him. But so I'm sitting here as I'm putting in my phone number. I'm like, you know what? He's gonna sell this shit. Like I know it. I know I'm gonna get spammed on my cell phone. And then so anyway, I go in there and you keep getting the error, which I shouldn't, but I expected. I'm like, okay, there's going to be errors 3 or 4 times, so I'll keep trying over the course of a couple minutes and eventually get in. So I do the birth date. You do that 3 or 4 times, error. Oh, boom, going in. It's like, okay, it's like the line, like Space Mountain, right? You kind of get through the first couple swivels and you're like, man, I'm there. And then you finally come, you're like, holy shit, there's like another, 5,000 people in line. So I get through the birth date. I get the phone number. I wait. You do that 3 or 4 times. I get the text. I'm like, all right, I'm rocking and rolling. I get all the way into the username. I'm like, I'm there, man. And that's where it stalls out on me. And last night I was with the wife. We're watching some movies over the course of, 2 hours or so. And after 2 hours, like, yeah, that's it. I'm done. And then this morning I tried it again. And now I don't even get the cell phone thing. I get the email. So now not only am I going to get spam phone calls, I'm going to get spam emails. And I couldn't even get through, the receiving the activation link. So everything I've been reading, and it looks like from what I can tell, your high profile conservative that are going to be on the platform already have accounts set up, which I understand that. I get it. They do that all the time as betas and whatever else, right? And plus, you want to give some priority to the folks that are going to have the largest audience and give other folks a reason to come to the platform. But it's like, man, put something out, put some info out, because right now all I have is like, this is just a bad rollout, and it pisses me off. Supposedly our rollout comes tomorrow for the common person or whatever, but it's like, how many people are going to be on this platform just through the pre-orders. And I'm sure that Apple's got plenty of data that goes through and says, hey, pre-orders times X equals amount of, users that's going to register for your thing within plus or minus, 10,000 or something like that. So it's like, man, why wouldn't you have your platform ready to rock and roll? If it's me, I'm like, that's my number one thing. I want people to get on there, be able to sign up flawlessly and get into the platform. Okay. Now you might have some hiccups on the back end of that platform, which you do have to fix. Cause again, I think that was the downside to Gab. Is Gab got to the point where you could finally sign up, but then the hiccups to the platform hung around for a month. And then, I would get to where I'm checking it once every couple minutes to hear him get signed on. Okay, I'm signed on. Let me check new feeds. Nothing's updating. To, okay, well, now I'll do it every couple hours. To now I'll just do it once in the morning and once at night. To, okay, maybe I just check it once a day. To maybe I check it once every 3 or 4 days. To now I don't even have the app on my phone anymore. And that's what bothers me with True Social is, hey man, this rollout should be flawless. Which takes me to my MeWe was the other one. There was Gab, MeWe, Parler, Getter, all that stuff, right? All of them, right? Parler is another one. And it's it takes me to my broader disappointment. And I say this as being one that can say what the solution is, but I'm not going to be the provider of that solution. So I get that. I'm a hypocrite. More than ever over the last several, and we've been saying this since the beginning of the podcast, this is the time for like a truly, censor free, just, right down the middle of the road social media platform. This is their time to shine. Right. And I don't know where these, you have plenty of VCs. It's not like us three trying to do this stuff. And, again, with the limited bandwidth, I mean, you've got plenty of venture capitalists out there like, hey, we could actually throw some money in this thing. And if we come out as not a left, not a right, kind of right down the middle, censorship free, yada, yada, yada. Because there's enough platforms out there that you can learn off of now. It's not like you're recreating the wheel. It's already out there. You just have to have a smooth rollout. And I'm kind of, I'm a little pissed off at the commercial and private sector because as a fan of capitalization, hey, when your current models suck, okay, they will stay around until you give the people something else to move to. People will get off Facebook and they will get off the Twitters. I mean, especially Twitter. My biggest thing with Twitter is I love to follow the journalists, left and right, because what you find is even the crazy left ones on TV, they tend to be a little bit more moderate on the Twitter feed. When they get on there, they have an agenda to feed, on whether it's CNN or MSNBC or Fox News or, Newsmax or whatever. So they tend to go off a little farther left or right. But the thing I like about them on Twitter is you're getting everything they're reporting, because any of those mainstream media, you get 5%. Hey, here's their 24-second snip that they can go out and talk about. But you actually get to see what they're reporting throughout the day. And it's live, and it tends to be more, hey, this is what I'm seeing right now, and a lot less opinionated. So I'm, that's what I do like about Twitter. And this is the time that, and I get Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, they're all different platforms and they accommodate different demographics. But it's surprising that it's taken me this long for anybody else to come out to really challenge them, and that, I think that's what's disheartening. So I don't know, Josh, I know you were, you texted a couple times. How far did you get down the True Social pass? And did you actually get an account set up? Or, I mean, because I know, you know what? I bet that scam likely call was probably Donald Trump asking if he wanted to go ahead and set our C3 account up. And I should have answered that clearly. But how far down the True Social rabbit hole did you get?
So I didn't get far at all. I got to the email verification. Like you, I pre-ordered, downloaded the app, and I went to go set up our C3 account on it this morning. When I woke up, old man early, and it was like, yeah, okay, what's your age, what's your email address? Punch in the email address. Checked our C3 at culperscanteencup.com email. I was like, yep, there it is. Hey, confirm your email. Click on it. Clicked on it. It takes you to the page, to log in, and next thing you know, it was like, yep, can't register. And
What
that
was
was
that
it.
email address again?
C3 at culperscanteencup.com.
All right, just checking.
What'd you think I said?
Hey, man, I just wanted to make sure you got C3 at culperscanteencup.com, correct. Let's see the number 3 at culperscanteencup.com.
Zero faith. Zero faith. The disappointed father. That's all I get from Roger.
I just wanted to make sure that you see the number 3 for those listeners out there and viewers. See the number 3 at culperscanteencup.com. And actually, you know what's pretty cool, and I'm totally hijacking your segment here. We have a voice recording option, voicemail on our website. It's pretty cool, and I think we have two. I think we had 2 recordings, and both of them are like, I think it's either me or Luke and Josh. It's like, bitches.
Dude, I wish a hater would call in and leave just a flamer, on that. It would be awesome.
I've spent the last couple days like shit posting on Twitter from the C3 account. Like you guys have probably seen some of them. Like I've been trying to get some haters. They won't do it, man. I don't know what it is. It won't do it. Like that one guy who was, it's like, oh, you don't know what you're talking about, blah, blah, blah. I was like, hey, man, more than welcome. Come on, open invitation. Anytime you want to come on and debate, we'll debate. And then it was like, dude, just straight crickets. Like they never heard from that dude again.
You're doing it wrong. One, and you have thrown out a bunch of tweets out there and some really, really good ones. So your tweets are too educated, right? And they're too informed. You just got to come right out and be like, you're a racist. And like with some slur, right? I mean, seriously, that's the way it is. You got to come out there. You got to throw some like derogatory comment out there that sounds, some backwoods, uneducated individual, something that is truly offensive. Have them go back banter, back and forth, and then gradually walk them down that road because they know, one, the vocabulary you use is probably they're like, yeah, this guy actually, yeah, forget that, and they go find somebody else.
It's crazy. So I'm trying, because I'm currently in Facebook jail, on my on my personal account. I'm trying not to get our, social media accounts put into Facebook or Twitter jail. So I'm trying to find that, that happy medium in there. I don't want to go too crazy, and get us suspended. So, but no, man. Other than that, dude. This weekend was pretty busy for me. The wife is in Cancun, laying on the beach for her yearly trip with her cousin, and so it's me at home playing Mr. Mo.
Is she lying on the beach perpetrating a tan so the brother with the money can be her man?
Possibly, man. If he could knock out like a mortgage payment or two, like I'm down with it.
I was going to say you should have the pool girl come by and clean the pool and clean your pool.
Right? Yeah. Yeah. See, that doesn't work. But see, that doesn't work out. The best way, because at the end of the day, who's the court going to side with? They're not going to side with me, and she gets half. Actually, it's a third. It's a third. You know why it's a third? Because she gets half, and the lawyers get a quarter. It's a third. And even if so you're going to start it amicably, right? So I had a friend of mine is going through this right now, and he was so upset because he had been married for a while, and they were gonna, it was amicable. The split was amicable, and they were no lawyers involved. They were like there was no kids or anything like that, and it was just like, hey man, let's just let's do this politely. We're just gonna split. It's just not working. It's fine. Well, you know what happens? Of course, she's going to go to lunch with one of her friends, and her friends are going to be like, oh, how's it going? Oh, you didn't get a lawyer? What do you mean you didn't get a lawyer? Are you crazy? Oh, he said he was going to give you this, and this, and just split. Like, well, if you don't have a lawyer, then he could go back on all that. Just talk to my guy. Just talk to him. You don't have to do anything. Just hear him out. Right. And dude, the next thing you know, she's lawyered up. It's turned nasty, and she's taking him for it. Dude, she is taking him for everything she can. She's even trying to take his dog. And you're just like, it's a third. They get half, and then the lawyer gets a quarter. Dude, it's a third.
She probably gets half, and then the other quarter that goes to the lawyer comes out of his half. So yeah, she'll get half. You end up with a quarter. The lawyer ends up with a quarter. You're like, okay, so how did that exactly work out?
Dude, exactly. In Texas, there's no such thing as the guy getting off paying nothing. There's no such thing as that because it goes before a judge, and the judge is like, wait, what? He's got to have a retirement or something. And I'm talking about people who've been married like over 10 years.
Yep.
They're like, no. And even if you want it that way, the judge is not going to let you. I mean, maybe I'm wrong on that. That's what I've kind of seen. If people could prove me wrong or have information I don't have, I'd love to hear it.
It's crazy, man. Lawyers.
Well, like Maryland, they, especially with the kids, so they don't want, and I know this on pretty good authority, not that I've been divorced, but um, they do not want, especially kids, they do not want them to become a warden of the state. And you see this with blue states. And maybe it shouldn't be a state issue. Maybe it should be a blue or red. They're just like, hey, look, you got two parents here that work. That kid does not need to be on food stamps. That kid does not need to be on state health care. So a lot of times what you're saying, Luke, is like, yeah, I know, like back in Maryland, you go there like, hey, this is what it's like. Nope, that's not how this works. And it's really pretty straightforward. One page, calculation. Here's like, what do you make? Here's what it costs to keep the kid fed, clothed, yada, yada, yada. Here's the percentage of income you make. And boom, it's there, dude. It's done.
Yeah. In our audience, I'm sure we don't have anyone who's familiar with the divorce process. We have a bunch of military vets.
That's going to be the voicemails we get on the website. Like, no. Like, you got this all wrong.
Yep. They're going to be like, I've been through this 3 times. This is how it works, fellas. This is how it works.
It is pretty crazy though. The three of us haven't been divorced. It's kind of crazy, isn't it?
Dude.
We did defy the odds. We did, only because the 3 of us all married saints.
Roofies. Saying, man.
Oh yeah, dude. I say my wife, and I know your wives as well. You just saint, like, she put up with so much, over the course of my career, and so. She probably is not going to listen to this, but hats off to you, babe. I love you for putting up with me.
No, if you would have said something negative just now, these women have this.
That would have been the one.
Yeah,
yeah.
That would have been the one.
Oh no, Roger. No, Luke. You would have been like, whatever you do, don't listen. You would have put it on Facebook. Whatever you do, don't listen to that one.
You know what would have happened is Josh would have woke up tomorrow morning when this episode airs, and he would have seen the headline clip, and it would have been the 40 seconds of whatever negative comment that he had to say that Nicole made and published, so he could play it over and over and over.
Nah, man, it's all good, dude. I married a saint.
That's why. What? I think a lot of military spouses. I mean, when you look at, again, the majority of our audience are either prior military or married to the military or military family, whatever. And I tell you what, I mean, we bring a lot to the table, but God, man, we bring a lot of baggage to the table as well. So I don't know if, some of the funniest and coolest people I've ever met have been other vets, other soldiers, service members, that type of stuff. But man, every single one of us have so much baggage. So I don't know if, like, somewhere in the grand scheme of things, it just kind of evens itself out. And well, I mean, I do have TRICARE for life now, so maybe that gives me a +1. And I guess if you're like Josh and you live near like a commissary or PX or something like that, continue getting that tax-free shopping. But yeah, somewhere it evens out for them.
PX privileges, baby. PX privileges.
So Josh, how long are you going to give Truth Social before you say F it?
I need to get on there first, right? I'll at least wait until I get on there to see the functionality, because I do think when Gab came out, it was like meh. MeWe came out, it was like really meh. Just the user interface on both those were not awesome. Getter is not doing it for me. I think Luke even made the comment a couple of days ago. Like, it's just the user interface, and it truly does suck being in an echo chamber. Like, it really does, because, man, dude, when it comes to Twitter's a cesspool. Like, it is a cesspool of everything that is wrong with society, but God, it's entertaining. Like, it is truly entertaining. Like, you see some people, see some severely unhinged people on there, like Keith Olbermann. Like, that dude is mentally impaired, for sure, man. And it's just, so I'll at least give it until we can get our C3 account on it, and then I'll give it some time, some interface, and just see how it goes, because it might.
You see that, DJ? I'm waiting for my verification email. I'm waiting for it so I can sign up. I would literally live. Well, I don't know. What do you can't call it tweet. You're gonna say I live truth. I'm truthing.
You're
truthing. What you
truthing.
call it?
I don't know. I don't know. That's a good question. If anybody out there knows, let us know. I don't know if you're truthing or what on there. Um, so, but real quick, while it's on my mind, are you guys all caught up on 1883?
Yes.
You're not. Oh God,
No,
Luke's not.
no,
Are you for
no.
real?
I'm 3 episodes behind, man, because the wife and I have to watch it together.
That's like the
And
whole
I've
season.
been well. Okay. Well,
That's like
if
my
the
daughter
season
with Culper's
finales
Canteen Cup. God bless
if
her.
the season finale's already played, then I missed it. Well, I haven't missed it. We're gonna catch up on it this week.
No. So the season
Don't
finale is not
spoil
already
it.
played. I'm not going to
Okay. Don't.
spoil it. That's why.
Okay.
That's why I asked if you guys were caught up because I didn't want to spoil it if you weren't.
Oh, dude, I'm so
Um,
spoiling this thing for you later today.
no, dude. No, dude. Don't. I will tell you, dude. It is probably one of the best TV shows that I've seen in a very, very, very long time. Um, it is fantastic. I think it's better than Yellowstone. I really do.
Oh yeah, I agree. I think I've seen the first 4 episodes, I think, and I agree
Yeah,
100%. It's the new Lonesome Dove.
yeah. And I have and dude, I dislike Tim McGraw and Faith Hill. I dislike them for their politics. Um, and I think Tim McGraw, he's an okay singer. As a country music artist, but damn, dude, he's a pretty good actor. As much as I want to dislike him, I can't dislike him.
So I've been
He's
wanting
What's
to
his
ask you.
pretty good.
What's his
Yeah,
political stance?
yeah, I
I don't
wanted to
follow
ask
him.
you that, Josh, because I knew that he used to kick around. He was kind of a jerk. I knew that, like back in his drinking days and stuff. And would go to the bars with other people, get in fights with just innocent bystanders. But I was going to ask you, what are his politics? What I don't know.
So after the Vegas mass shooting, he came out and he railed very, very hard against guns. He is very, very anti assault weapon, whatever that is. And he basically, like, he came out like he was going to be the ATF spokesperson. He was going to be their poster child because he came out, and as soon as he came out with that, and he was like, I don't think anybody should own a
Bump
gun that
stocks.
holds more than 10 rounds. Yeah. And no, dude, I mean, he was like, people shouldn't have high capacity magazines or guns that hold more than 10 rounds. Nobody should have a weapon of war. It's like, well, I mean, I carried a Glock 19 and in combat. Does that mean
That's a good point.
does that make it a weapon of war?
That's a
No.
very good point with the AR-15, comment that a lot of folks make, oh, these military weapons. Like, well, no, actually, this was never used in the military, but that Glock 19 was and is.
Yeah. Yeah. That SIG pistol you have that now the entire army has, is that a weapon of war? Because the army carries it. So, and so he came out with that, and me and the Second Amendment. As soon as you come out on that, I'm done with you. And I'm not done with Luke
What?
quite yet because
I'm liking him more and more. The more you talk, the more.
So how does he justify? Like, how does someone like that justify? Because I didn't know he said all that about the Vegas shooters and stuff. But it's like, and granted, I know what you see on TV is clearly not their personal lives, but like when you watch 1883, especially this last episode where he starts shooting up that family in that village down in oh shit, sorry. So so how does a guy like that, how does he justify like dude, it's right up there with the Democrats saying, hey, filibuster, man, that's Jim Crow. Oh yeah, we're going to go ahead and use filibuster to block the Russia sanctions.
Yeah, well, it's the same with it's the same with any of them in Hollywood. You take a look at Alec Baldwin. Alec Baldwin, very anti-gun, and here he is, one filming a movie, with guns where he's some gunfighter, and then, I mean he literally kills somebody, allegedly, and but it's the same, De Niro. Robert De Niro came out and, I mean, he's a complete whack job, comes out and is like, oh my God, guns this and anti-gun this and anti-gun that. It's like, didn't you make a lot of your money playing a mobster, killing people with guns? It's, it's whatever, dude. Did you guys see, speaking of shit like that, did you guys see Peter Dinklage? What Peter Dinklage did I don't know if I know it's been a couple weeks.
With the dwarves thing, with the 12 dwarves or
Yes.
whatever.
I was just
Yeah.
thinking
7
that.
dwarves.
That
What an idiot.
that dude makes millions. I mean, he made tens of millions of dollars off of Game of Thrones, and he'll probably wind up making over 100 million off of it, you know, when it's all said and done. Playing Tyrion Lannister, a dwarf. You know, that's his identity, the whole movie, right? Is, you know, he's a dwarf. And turns around, it's like, oh, well, you know, them using, you know, dwarves for Snow White and the Seven Dwarves, that's offensive to dwarves. They shouldn't do that. And so now you've got 7 dwarves who are out of a job. It's like, oh, okay, you got to the top of the ladder, and then you tossed it out, you know, you pulled it up. Nobody else can get up there. You want a dude?
They should have had Channing Tatum. They should have had Channing Tatum play Tyrion Lannister or something, you know, because that would have fit with the books and everything.
Yeah, I never read the book, so I can't speak.
Well, in the books, that's the point. I'm just underscoring what you're saying. In the books, the dude was a dwarf, and he was ugly. In the books, he's an ugly dwarf with half his nose cut off by halfway through the book. So yeah, it's like, dude is just a whatever. They've all lost their minds.
Yeah. So, you know, stuff like that. Anyway, so all right, you know, before I forget, I have to. So Luke, I need to hear your thoughts on this. So in California, there's a bear is running around Lake Tahoe. It's broken into a couple of dozen homes. The bear, they call it Hank the Tank. This is a 500-pound black bear. I just texted you the photo. We'll put it up in a blog. This bear is massive, dude. Holy smoke.
Holy shit.
Look at that thing, dude. That that bear is fat AF. All right, so this bear, they don't know what to do with it. Like, it's been pepper sprayed, it's been shot with paintballs, like, you know, it's been water hose, like, it has been everything they could possibly do without killing this thing. But this thing is broken into dozens of homes, and, you know, like, can chow down on their food. And so now there's this big debate going on, and people, you know, everybody's like, well, it's, you know, it's gotten used to human food. It's not scared of humans. Well, do you kill it? Do you try and trap it and move it somewhere else? But now at this point, it's become so dependent on human food that it'll probably die.
Mm-hmm.
Or do you just let Hank the Tank keep doing his thing? What say you?
My initial reaction is let him keep doing it. Well, actually, okay. My initial reaction I'll get to in a second. The first thing that came to my head I'll get to in a second. But once I kind of go down that path in my mind, I'm like, no, that's not going to work. It would be entertaining, but it's not going to work. But so I guess the more logical reaction in my mind is, man, just let him do his thing. You people in California, you know, you got a bear on your flag, dude. Live with it. Stay out of his way. Those folks up in Alaska, I think we have a few listeners, man. There's a moose in your yard. You ain't leaving. You're not leaving your house. And you call into work, right, Josh? Josh lived there. You call in and you say, hey, there's a moose in my yard. And first sergeant, whoever be like, send me a picture. You send the picture, first sergeant, like, all right, wait till that thing's gone and then move out. They got to live with those things. So I say, I think the more reasonable thing is to let, what's his name? Hank the Tank, live with the people, you know, get back to nature, folks. There in California, you could probably use some toughening up. But my initial reaction is even better. What you do is you drug this thing, you know, you capture him and put him in with all those pandas we were talking about last week and to see what happens. And if he doesn't kill those worthless animals, then stick him in with like some baboons and see what happens. And if he cleans house with the baboons, you know, then tigers, just go down the list, man. And you could like do live streams. You could, you know, people could pay money to subscribe to the live streams and you put him in with the pandas. I'd pay for that. But man, that bear is huge. Yeah, y'all check it out. Maybe we'll post something on culperscanteencup.com. That's culperscanteencup.com. Maybe we'll post a picture of Hank the Tank. Holy cow. Lost fear of all people. Man, that thing's huge. But you know, it's like you say, he's probably fat, conditioned to human food. And he probably wouldn't do anything with those pandas. He'd be pissed because he had to eat bamboo. And maybe he'd get pissed enough to kill them all. I don't know. But I say live and let live. Let him walk around. But those commies up in California will probably put a bullet in him. It's a shame. I'd adopt this thing, man. Totally. Totally. Have him walking around the lake here. That would be awesome, man.
Dude.
Tell you
So
what.
we get Roger's thought on it real quick. I'm definitely a let that bear live. Like that bear has managed to break into dozens of homes. He hasn't mauled anybody, but he is, dude, he's rated, your cinnamon toast crunch and food man. Like let that thing live. It was, when I was a kid, we used to go raccoon hunting, and was out raccoon hunting with some family, and this raccoon came down out of the tree. Couldn't get, it had nowhere else to go, dude. It came down a tree and it grabbed on to this hound dog's face. And he grabbed him. He grabbed him just right to where he had his front paws like, sunk in behind this dog's ears, and he had his bottom claws like right up under his chin. So the dog couldn't bite him. Like he couldn't get his teeth out to really get a good grip on him. And he gnawed, dude, he gnawed the top of that dog's head to the point to where it's like he had to get stitched up. And so he finally flung him off, and I got ready to shoot him. And my granddad was like, now that raccoon just whooped that dog's ass. He gets to live another day. He's like, he gets to live another day. It's like, all right.
He's moved up one more notch on the food chain.
That's right. It's like, yep. You know what? You get to live another day, buddy. It was.
Here's my question though. Here's what I'm confused about, because I mean the bear. I mean he's, I'm kind of like Luke. It's like, hey, that dude's been there for how long? I mean, hey man, you live with it. I mean, we get bobcats out here and mountain lions. You don't got there and shoot. You're like, give him a half hour, he'll leave. What I'm confused about though is, so this is a 500-pound bear that Department of Fish and Wildlife have been trying to track for more than 6 months. I mean, come on, dude. So one. Some of you folks have seen my dog, okay, and he's pretty lazy. I mean, my Malamute is not your typical Malamute, and I believe that this bear is much like my Malamute, and that he probably doesn't cover very much ground on a daily basis. Just look at the size of this bear here, and then his turds have got to be like bowling balls. Like, how long does it take to actually track this thing? Right? You get a bird up in the air, fly around a couple miles. I mean, you got to have this dude. He's not like a thin marathon runner. So I don't know. I think they let them live. I don't think they're looking very hard. And I think the Department of Fish and Wildlife I don't know. You guys ever been to Lake Tahoe before? I mean, what are the people like there?
I've flown over it, but I've never been
They're like a bunch of yuppies or hippies
I would bet at Lake Tahoe in the winter months, the people are really cool. And in the summer months, they're not. You know what I'm saying? Because you're going to get a bunch of the tourists up there. I know that it's like that at Havasu, Roger, where I have some friends who own a boat, something up there, and they said that in the off months, it's all the locals and they're cool. But when all the hippies come up and commies, it turns into just a mess. Kind of like Yuma, when all the Canadians come down there.
Yeah, so I'm guessing that the Department of Fish and Wildlife are just probably hanging back, having a good chuckle at Hank the Tank roaming around the woods that they can't find. So I got one for you there, Luke. So do you pee in the shower?
Yes. No hesitation. Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
How about you, Josh? Do you pee in the shower?
Yes.
He had to think about it for a minute. So I... Well, actually, but
now not in the Airbnb's bathroom though, or shower. I did not pee in that shower. Just
I was going to say,
for the record.
As I was asking you that question, I'm like, of course he would pee in the shower and anywhere else. I'm lucky if
anywhere else.
In the shower. Apparently, peeing in the shower is good for you, and it's not really an art. So anyway, there's this health website, and so this doc is going. Hey, if you're going to pee in the shower, this is the proper way to do it, according to a pelvic doctor, and it's actually supposed to be good for you because it's good for your bladder. But there are some don'ts. So a couple of don'ts is, and this is probably for you, Josh. Don't bear down as you're going, number one, and don't hover or partially squat. Instead, think of yoga squat of malasana, whatever the hell that is. Get into a deep squat position. Rest elbows on thighs and lean slightly forward. Once you're in position, okay, Yeah, now, by now, I'm already done peeing. I'm just letting you know that. By now, like reading this, I've already done my business in the shower. Once you're in position, gently inhale and release your bladder until you're all done. Then you can go about your shower business without interruption and without worrying about your pelvic floor health. Now, see, I was always taught to pee grew up playing basketball and, high school basketball, whatever. And I was always taught, hey, you pee on your feet to prevent athlete's feet, which I don't know if that's an old wives' tale or whatever, but to this day, I've never had athlete's foot. So I don't know, Josh, what do you think about peeing in the shower for your pelvic health?
Yeah, man, I'm with you. It's I'm not doing deep squats in the shower to pee. Like it's
Your
just not
wife would
happening.
walk in, you'd be down with your elbows on your knees in a deep squat. What in the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah, at that point, she would probably call the men in white coats and be like, "Come get him!" Like
you
he's
remember
done.
you remember the peaceful times of the late 80s and early 90s when scandals weren't really scandals. I mean, scandals were just like nothing. For instance, talk about peeing in the shower, right? I remember Madonna went on David Letterman, and I loved Letterman back in the day. And apparently she was just a real handful for Letterman. She's giving him a hard time, and it was kind of tough on him. And one of the questions he asked her was, no, she asked him, "Do you pee in the shower?" And he wouldn't answer, and she gave the whole speech. Well, it's actually really healthy for you. It kills athlete's foot. And, she went into like the whole, if you breathe right and all that stuff, I'll never forget. And that was the biggest scandal ever. And Madonna was like on the tabloids for asking David Letterman if he peed in the shower. Man, how times have changed, huh?
That had to be before the Clinton years, though, right? I mean, because I'm thinking after Clinton, the cigars, it all just kind of went downhill from there.
Yeah, I want to say that was around 1990, 1991 when that happened. Yeah. So yes, yeah, prior cigar incident. Good Lord.
Yeah. Well, that and when MTV actually, when they stopped playing music, that's when it all went downhill.
That's when it all went downhill, man. The real world. I think you could probably mark the high water mark was the day before the first episode of MTV's The Real World. That was probably the high water mark of culture in the United States.
Well, you know what, though? I mean, serious thing. It's like I remember as a kid, and I was back in Maryland, and I had to be like, what, 14, 15 or whatever. And I remember like the predictions coming out saying, hey, in 5 years, and this is how influential MTV was, and our listeners are most of them our age know this or remember this, but they were like, hey, this will be the most watched news source in the entire world. I mean, they had that much of a following, that much of a gathering, and I don't even know what their ratings are like today. And I get it. TV is a lot different nowadays than it was back then because you don't have the internet around and this and that. But I mean, I would imagine there had to be a huge fall off once they went from MTV to like MTV without the M, right, and started playing everything else other than the music.
Hey, dude, look at it this way. Yeah, you're right. But 1883 is an MTV product under what, the CBS or Paramount? Is it
Paramount.
CBS? It's CBS Paramount. I think CBS.
Yeah, CBS Paramount. Yeah.
Whatever. But that's interesting. Yeah. I guess my question, throw it back to one of you guys, if you know, is why did they stop playing music videos? Did they get like, did it become too expensive for artists to do that, and artists to realize it's just not worth it? We're not really making any money off the videos. I don't know. Do you have any idea what the reason was they actually stopped playing me? Because I don't think they do it at all anymore. Although the music videos do exist, I think.
Oh yeah, did we? Oh well, you know that we spent a long night of
Oh,
bourbon drinking and watching.
forgive me,
Well,
I
and you know what?
forgot.
Maybe it's just maybe it was the media that was around at the time because you figure at the time you had to be glued at home to a TV to watch the music videos versus mobile phones running around back then. You didn't have iPads and all that stuff. But nowadays, I mean, maybe MTV was just a little bit too early. Maybe if MTV had come out during the iPhone, iPod, iPad era to where, hey, I can actually catch music videos anywhere. Because I tell you, when I go to the gym, which is not very often nowadays, as Luke can attest, when I do go, if I'm on the treadmill or whatever stationary, dude, I play, I get on there and YouTube, throw music videos because I'm visual. I would much rather watch and hear. And I'll sit there and watch videos back to back while I do my workout versus, just listen to music or just listen to a podcast or whatever. So, I mean, I think part of it maybe was just the media and the platforms that were available was like, hey, you had to be at home glued to it. And how long a day are you going to do that versus like, hey, today it makes sense because you can listen, watch everywhere.
Yeah, man, I don't know about that working out stuff, Josh. I don't know if you've ever seen Roger's calves, but he's walking around in his shorts and looking at his calves. I'm like, man, he's got some nice calves. You know what he should do is show the audience his calves on YouTube, get a few more views and likes. Some nice
Nah,
calves,
not until I get sponsored for my Lululemon shorts that I'm wearing.
So I had a friend. God, I love it when the show goes off the rails. I'll kick it to Josh, and we go by first names only on this show. People we all know mutually, and I can guarantee you this dude does not listen to the show. That's your first hint. But one time we were out at at a club in Long Island, a club, if you know what I mean, and this guy said to the bouncer, there's all this stuff he could see everywhere else, but he says to the bouncer, "Bro, you got the nicest calves I've ever seen. Can you flex them for me? Can you flex?" Do you have any idea who that person might have been?
Is his first name Scott?
No, his first name starts with a D. First name Dave. And not DC. So anyway, that was a bad story. Hey, cut that one out, editor. Sorry. Okay, but
better if we had the guess on the first.
So let's get to it, man. I can't. It's the gorilla in the room, the elephant in the room here. So Vladimir Putin comes out today and completely punks the entire world. And what's funny is I think we all saw this kind of coming. He's a chess master and he's playing it exactly the right way. So he came out and basically told the world we're annexing the Donbass region and Luhansk region of Ukraine. These people, want their peace, so they're being persecuted by the Ukrainian-speaking people, and we're not going to stand for it anymore. And I think it's just coming out now that he ordered troops into those two regions, which are within Ukrainian borders, to serve as a peacekeeping force. And Josh, I mean, what are your views on this move by Vladimir Putin?
Well, I mean, as far as that move goes, I think it's brilliant. I obviously despise and loathe Vladimir Putin as I do most communists. But I mean, it's like you said, the guy's playing chess, and everybody else is playing Connect Four. He completely outfoxed, outclassed everybody. And in the end of the day, he got what he wanted. And the way it's set up is perfect, because all the rhetoric and all the bluster from Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and crew, they're like, well, if he invades, sanctions. He's gonna, the strongest sanctions the world has ever seen. We're gonna do it. Well, what are you gonna do now? Because that region, he didn't invade. He just said we acknowledge their independence, and that region, the Donbass, they're gonna say, yeah, we want you to come in. And now he's gonna go in, and it's not an invasion. So what sanctions are you gonna levy against him? And there was that whole right before we started recording, it talked about, well, the U.S. is going to sanction the Donbass region, trade and investing, and you're like, really? That's it? That's what you got? You're gonna
Dude, there's nothing out there. There is nothing out there.
I was about to say, you're gonna basically that would be like the United States. Somebody be like, well, we're gonna sanction Puerto Rico, and you're like, okay. So, it's like we're going to sanction, central Oklahoma. Okay. But what do you sanction?
We're
There's nowhere else.
The White Sands area of Mexico.
It's, and it come out, you're looking at it, you're like, yeah, because God forbid there's nowhere else for them to get, whatever supplies they need out there, whatever they need. There's nowhere else for them to do that. Nowhere else. You're going to sanction them. Great job. So now Putin's going to send in peacekeeping forces. And it's like, it's like you typed in the chat, who's going to attack peacekeeping forces? Nobody's going to attack peacekeeping forces. So Putin got what he wanted, and nobody is going to do anything about it because nobody can do anything. And you saw, you saw France and Germany's, quote. They're like, response to Putin's speech, and dude, Putin's speech, man, that dude dunked on Lenin, Stalin, and Khrushchev. I'll let Luke talk to that stuff. But dude, I mean, he came out and that guy was like, holy smokes, like this, the balls on this dude. And and they come out in France and Germany, that Normandy format. They're like, yeah, man, we're disappointed in that decision, but yeah, all right, we'll just, whatever. It is what it is. And I've not seen a response from the Biden administration yet. So it's out of control, man.
Yeah,
Dude,
I
it
was
got punked.
I was shocked. Not shocked. Yes, I was shocked. I was, because, like you said, he, what first I heard is he dunked on Stalin and Khrushchev, and I was like, the way he's dunking on him was, for far too long, dating all the way back to, Stalin did this, Khrushchev did that. This is a long speech in Russian. He was saying that we have caved to Ukrainian nationalist sentiment for far too long, and it's been a mistake because, going back into history, and he's kind of reframing history as Ukraine is not a thing. Ukraine is Russia. Kind of how the Serbs view Kosovo. And that was some pretty strong rhetoric. And then he dunked on Vladimir Lenin too. Man, it's like this guy. That's big news, man, because he is framing himself as a leader in the vein of all those people he mentioned, which is a big deal. And if people think that this is going away, if they're just going to be okay with annexing, Crimea, Luhansk, and Donetsk, no, dude, or Donbass, I'm sorry, you got another thing coming. This guy's going all the way, eventually, playing the long game. So, I mean, I always say this, we could spend an hour on this topic, but I want to kick one to Roger real quick. Quote. It's a quote. I'd like to get your thoughts on it. Quote, I mean, let's really take a moment to understand the significance of what we're talking about. It's been over 70 years. And through those 70 years, as I mentioned yesterday, there has been peace and security. We are talking about the real possibility of war in Europe, unquote. And that was a quote by the Vice President Kamala Harris, talking about how there's been 70 years of peace in Europe since the end of the war. Roger, what's your take on that quote?
It's the same as it is, or very similar as it is, when they asked her about deterrence and sanctions. Like, she clearly needs a history book, and she literally needs a dictionary. Like, and I'm not joking, like in the literal sense, she needs a dictionary, because like deterrence, I don't think she understands what that word means. I mean, she should, but I don't think she understands what that word means. When it comes to Europe being peaceful for the last 70 years, I think Georgia would like a word with you. Hell, you don't even have to go back that far back. Why don't you go back and ask Joe about Crimea, right? You go back to 2014 on that. I think the whole, the Balkan area would like to have a word with you. I mean, I just randomly pulled some stuff up back when I think Josh or one of you posted that initially. It's like, man, you get on Wikipedia, like, yeah, there's been like 70, over like literally an average of like one a year throughout Europe. And it's like, but here's the scary part about it. It goes back to what you said months ago about this. It's gaslighting. And it's gaslighting in its truest sense. And for those out there, and I had to look it up, so don't feel dumb if you got to look it up. Go out there, and for those that aren't familiar with it, because it's not necessarily, doesn't totally correlate to what you think it means, but it comes down to, hey, convincing you of a different reality. Okay, that's what gaslighting is. It's like what you see is not, that's not what's really happening. And it seems to be, and not only just with inflation and everything else, but that's their policy, right? That's their agenda. It's like, hey, we're just going to gaslight. So no matter what the history books say, no matter about the genocide in Bosnia and Srebrenica and Mladic and the Pifwiks and this and that, never mind the annexation of Crimea. I mean, hell, Ukraine itself has been under conflict for how long now? How many decades, right? So, or that region. So, I mean, no matter you continue going back, no matter how much of that stuff is out there, I'm just going to tell you it's never happened, and you're just going to believe it, right? And the sad thing is, with a lot of the folks here in the States, a lot of them just don't track world affairs. And I get it, because a lot of military folks we do, because, hey, number one, we've probably deployed in a lot of those areas. So we're a little bit more in touch with it. But, for your common U.S. citizen out there, they may not be as up to date on things that happen in Europe and may not have that globalist mentality. But I mean, there's always conflict going in Europe. But she just misses the mark. I mean, one, they're actually it's entertaining to read her quotes or the transcripts from her speeches as well as Joe Biden's. Like Joe Biden, well, actually, I can't even tell. It's a competition. I think it's a tie because Joe Biden is just not coherent. Like he is punch drunk, Muhammad Ali with Parkinson's at the end, right? And I probably shouldn't insult, former Muhammad Ali like that, but that's listening to Joe Biden. Listening to Kamala Harris, it's like, okay, you're trying to be articulate and you're trying to use some big words, but they don't really pair well and they don't really mean what you think they mean. You just think it sounds like what you want it to mean and you throw it out there, but then your followers just blindly listen and believe. And MSM on the left side of the house, to go along with the gaslighting thing. I mean, that's the big thing now, right? And you're seeing this on the left and the right. And again, you can have, I think we three may have some varying opinions on this, but it's like now it's like, who's Ukraine? We don't need them. And maybe we don't. Maybe we do. Maybe again, that's a different argument. You can, my problem with the way the administration happens, this whole, with this whole incident is, first off, if you don't care about the Ukraine as an administration, just say it. Okay, just say it. Don't come out there and we're going to impose sanctions and harsher than the world. Like, dude, our trade with the Ukraine, what comes out to us, the entire country is $1 billion a year. The Donbass region is probably $45. Okay, so I would say that sanctions on the Donbass, like they're like, yeah, okay, whatever, man. But if you don't care, just say, hey, we have deemed that it's not in the national security interest of the United States, and that's a regional conflict that should be handled by Europe and the European Communion or Commission in the European Union. Or whatever, however you want to word that. You take a stance somewhere and they're just not taking a stance and they're sitting there, it's Josh said it at the beginning, that he outfoxed and outclassed us. Now, when he says outfoxed and outclassed, it was Biden. He didn't outfox and outclass Germany and France, because what is very telling is what Josh was saying when they were like, yeah, we're very disappointed in what Putin did. Because number one, Putin called Germany and France and said, this is a decision that we've come to, right? Didn't call Biden. Or I haven't seen any reports on it. Estonia's come out and made statements. Germany's come out and made statements. France has come out and they've made statements. And they're like, we're very disappointed in the decision that Putin came to. But hey, man, we're open to dialogue. Okay, that tells me right there. I mean, especially when all this reporting came out with, how strong is NATO? And, is NATO really on the same sheet of music? And what are you going to do with Nord Stream 2? We're going to shut it down. Or how are you going to do that? We're just going to do it. But it's not yours. Like, how do you shut that down? It's not yours anymore. So, I think, France and Germany are just kind of like, we're going to go along. We know these sanctions aren't anything. And you know what? We're still open for dialogue. And when you look at, I saw it on all over Twitter with supporters of Blinken and Sullivan and this, and they're like, oh man, this is why we elected Biden, and his team, because they got experience. Doesn't mean it was good experience. Okay, they could have. We've talked about this a million times. They could have had a crappy experience, which he has. I mean, we know he's had 40 years of crappy experience. So I think it puts Biden in a bad position. One, I wouldn't send Kamala anywhere. There's just no way. I'm not sending her to Dunkin' Donuts to get me, a 6-pack of donuts at this point, because she'd screw up the jelly fill. But it's like, to have her come out and be totally she's just not there, man. Like, she has no clue what's going on. And then for Biden and his administration to make empty threats. So there's a lot of folks you can get away with, right? Like my kids, I can be like, hey, if you don't do this, I'm grounding you for the rest of your life. And my kids might believe it. Well, now they don't believe it. But back when they were little, right, there was some deterrence. And they might believe that a little bit. That is not the same strategy I would use with Putin. And I think Josh hit it on the head here. When you look at Donetsk and Luhansk, that's what he's going to do, right? Hey, now you got these two areas. They have claimed independence, and now these sovereign nations that we now recognize, have come to us and said, we want your help. So now Putin can go into these two areas, say, hey, they wanted help, never fire a shot. And we're here conducting training exercises. We're here doing force protection. We're here doing whatever, right? And then how do you combat that, as part of the Biden administration? And it makes us look bad because it's not just the Ukraine area. It's everything else. Like, okay, so now what happens with China and Taiwan? And then you take it, even farther back. I mean, you look at our own history since, when you look at Putin's speech, which, I mean, it was pretty forceful. I mean, there was some stuff in there that was like, okay, you're a little off the rocker here, but it's pretty forceful and it's pretty historical. And it goes back to, some tough questions that the administration isn't prepared to answer, won't answer. And it even goes back to like Abraham Lincoln in the Civil War. It's like, at what point can a sovereign entity, or I shouldn't say sovereign entity, an entity claim independence? I mean, the South tried to do it, right? And Josh is famous for this. I want my freedom, where the government won't let you have your freedom. But I want my freedom. I'm gonna do what I want. Well, no, you're gonna do whatever the government tells you. And that's what it is. So it's like, at what point do you start to recognize and say, hey, I'm a sovereign entity? And then you look at what we're doing with China and Taiwan, and we've talked about this in previous episodes, where we don't even recognize Taiwan as a sovereign entity. Right. So, I mean, Putin can sit there and play that both ways. I mean, there's so many things. It's like, it goes back to the Democrats and the filibuster. It's like, hey, don't preach to me about what I can and can't do. First of all, and believe me, I am not, clearly, we are not on the fucking side of the Russian army and all this stuff. It's just, we see these mistakes being made. And we've been saying this for weeks. It's like, hey, man, this is not the guy that you play chicken with. I mean, I think you got to come out and you got to do the Soleimani thing, And I think when we've been texting about this over the last week, where number one, I think moving the Florida National Guard was the wrong answer. Withdrawing them, and I think they actually redeployed them. I think moving the embassy to the western part of Ukraine was the wrong answer. I think you leave those Americans there, and I think, well, let me rephrase this, because Biden is good about leaving Americans there. If it were any other president, you leave those Americans in place and you come out, much like what Trump did and what happened with Soleimani. Hey, you handle your little skirmish or whatever you want to call it or whatever. One American dies, I'm turning your country into a parking lot. And you have to be willing to go through with something like that. And I'm not saying necessarily go all out war or whatever. And obviously I'm being a little, over dramatic about it, but you have to come out forceful like that. Like, hey, your troops in place over there, and I'm saying send more, but that is your deterrence. Not the economic sanctions that we're going to place on Donbass that, heck, I don't even know if we do any trade with them or even have any foreign or financial ties or whatever. So I know I ranted there. I'll kick it over to Josh, but it's, it's like, dude, I think everybody saw this. And I think when you look, especially with the reply with Germany and France and him not reaching out to everybody else, knew what was going on. Everybody else knew what was going to happen. But apparently the Biden administration didn't. And I would just appreciate it up front just to say, hey, we don't care about the Ukraine. Okay, then just call it what it is and let's go about our day. Right?
Yeah. I mean, you could just treat it like we've treated the entire continent of Africa, for all of history. It's like, hey, man, sorry about it. Oh, there's some genocide going on in the Balkans. We're going in and we're stopping that. Oh, Rwanda. Oh man, sorry about that. You guys will figure it out. Anyway, so dude, there's so, like Luke said, man, we could talk about this for hours. There's so much to unpack here, and I'm gonna kick it over to Luke here in a few, and because I know Luke's got a couple of Kabbalah quotes that he wants to put out there, and they are, I mean, they are beautiful. They are exquisite. They're even better than her. You just got to keep doing that same thing that you're doing, and the time to do it is today. It's even better than that. Anyway, so when they were talking about it, Roger was talking about what you're seeing and what they're saying. They're telling you, no, that's not what you're seeing. That goes back, dude. It goes straight back to George Orwell's 1984. In the quote out of that book, the party told you to reject the evidence of your eyes and ears. Right? Don't believe what you're seeing. Believe what I'm telling you.
2 + 2 = 5, right?
Exactly. Right. And, and in Orwell's book, man, 1984, by the way, and I say it a lot, it was a warning. It's not a how-to guide. It was the party's final and most essential command. With the rest of it, it's not rocket science, what Putin wants to do, what Russia wants to do. Um, a lot of folks knew that this was going to happen. I didn't think that Putin was just going to be like, all right, man, we're crossing LD, we're going to guns, and we'll see what happens. But the way he played it was perfect. And you think about, and Luke brought it up, the anniversary of the 2013 modern revolution in Ukraine, which kind of started all of this, or continued it rather, is tomorrow. So people, and you go back and you look at leaders like Putin, they love that symbolism. They love those dates. They love those anniversaries, right? Um, and you know, we Biden, I can't get over like just how inept this dude is. One, you sent Kamala Harris over to talk to world leaders about this. What is her level of foreign policy experience? Like, what is her level of foreign policy experience? Zero, right? Not that Biden's is any better, but you don't. You sent Kamala Harris over with her cackle, and it's just anything. But I keep going back, and I've texted it to you, a couple guys. Back in I think it was February of 2020. Biden comes out, and of course he's always, when he's got that teleprompter and he's fresh in the morning, and he's ready to go. He's got his V8, and he comes out and he does that angry grandpa thing. Well, I forget. I think it was one of the debates. He said, and I quote, "Vladimir Putin doesn't want me to be president. He doesn't want me to be our nominee. If you're wondering why, it's because I'm the only person in this field who's ever gone toe to toe with him." Well, Vladimir Putin just got what he wanted. You got nothing, and he didn't even call you to tell you. Like that right there, that should show that should sum up America's foreign policy, current foreign policy right now. And the world is watching. The world watched Afghanistan. The world is absolutely watching this. And you know who's watching it very closely? China and Taiwan.
China.
Yeah, they are watching this very, very closely because now all China's got to do is like, oh, what is the United States going to do? We're going to sanction Western China. We're going to sanction the Gobi Desert.
We're going to sanction the Uyghurs. That's what we're going to do. We're going to sanction the Uyghurs.
Yeah, we're going to sanction the Uyghurs, and they're going to go, hey man, there's Chinese loyalists in Taiwan that are being mistreated, and we're going to send peacekeeping troops in there to make sure that they're safe. What are you going to do? Like you said, we don't even recognize them as their own independent country officially. Like, how crazy is that? We're doing, dude. I don't know if you guys have seen also coming out of Nicaragua, and this kind of gets into a broader subject, and we start talking about expansion of communism again. But Nicaragua is electing some very, very hard left leaders, and we all remember the '80s, hostages for guns and Ali and Sandinistas, and man, the world's picking up again, and it comes back to the fact that the Cold War ended, officially. Nobody told Russia that, and for a while we were the leaders, we were the big dog on the block, we were the lone superpower in the world, and that's just not the case anymore. And we are behind the power curve, and we had the opportunity to stop Putin. We had the opportunity back in January to sanction the Nord Stream 2 pipeline, but guess who blocked it? The Democrats blocked it in the Senate. It was Ted Cruz's bill, and as much as I dislike Ted Cruz, he was spot on. He came out, and the Democrats, not only did they block it, they used the filibuster to do it. That racist Jim Crow era rule, that they used 300 something times in 1 year. They used that to block sanctions on the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Why? Why did they do that? Not one person will answer that. I asked probably 10 people on Twitter, why? Explain this, right? Because it's always been the big thing is Trump was Putin's puppet. Right? Oh man, nobody's been harder on Putin than Joe Biden. Okay. Why didn't the Democrats sanction the Nord Stream 2 pipeline? Why did they allow it? Well, whatever. Trump took classified out of the White House and, took it to his house in Mar-a-Lago. It's like, dude, we're talking about the pipeline of Putin, man. We're not like, why you keep bringing up Trump because because you just can't let it go. I think you're right. I don't see Putin. I don't see Putin stopping. Now there is a permanent Russian troop presence in Belarus, which is, I mean, Belarus has always been, very, very loyal to Russia anyway. That's not overly surprising. But at what point are they going to take a look at Kaliningrad and say, man, that's really isolated. It is part of Russia, but we just need to make sure there's a land bridge, to connect it to the mainland part of Russia. I don't know. I know I kind of rambled a little bit. I'm gonna throw it over to Luke, and hopefully he's got some Kamala quotes for us.
Yeah, I do. But that's been a concern up there in the Baltics for a while, and Russia's been doing the same thing up in the Baltics with whatever you want to call it. Some people would call it disinformation campaigns, but it's an information operation where they're trying to say up in the Baltics, which is near Kaliningrad, what Josh was just saying, is saying, well, there are areas of Lithuania, Estonia, and Latvia who speak Russian just like they do down in the Donbass, who feel like they should be part of Russia. So yeah, this is not a new thing. It's going to keep going, and it's a precedent, right? That Putin is setting now, and especially when we don't do anything about it. I mean, it's a precedent, and it's going to hold until somebody lays down the law and does something about it. But like Roger said, this is not a guy you play chicken with. The Russians are very serious people. I mean, at least the leadership is. They've got very serious guidelines on these are the red lines you do not cross, or there will be a nuclear war. And those red lines are very clear and very public. So it's bad precedent. I do think that, hey, maybe look at the bright side. Maybe Kosovo will finally get its independence out of this, because the only people been holding that up have been the Russians, because now they're talking out both sides of their mouths between Kosovo and Donbass. So
Right.
I doubt that's going to happen, but that's straight up hypocrisy. But anyway, so yeah, I pulled up whitehouse.gov, and there's just a couple things here. It's kind of funny. We're kind of beating this dead horse to death, but vice president answers a question and, quote, the purpose of the sanctions has always been and continues to be deterrence. But let's also recognize the unique nature of the sanctions that we have outlined. These are some of the greatest sanctions, if not the strongest, that we've ever issued. End quote. Now, let me cut it off right there and say, yeah, no, they're not. They're not the greatest and the strongest we've ever issued. That's not even close. So the reporter doing some pretty good follow up asked the question, but if Putin has made up his mind, do you think do you feel that this threat has been looming and is really going to deter him? Now, this is the best. She basically says, yes, it absolutely is going to deter him. But this is what caught me, and I love this quote. And within the context then of the fact that the window is still although it is absolutely narrowing, but within the context of a diplomatic path still being open, the deterrence effect, we believe, has merit. Now, what this end quote. Now, what this reminds me of was when I had a 5,000 word essay as a 10,000, as a 10th grade student. I had an essay to turn in for English, 5,000 words, and I would stretch a sentence out as long as I possibly could with modifiers and qualifiers. It makes no sense. It makes no sense. And that's the vice president we sent over there to try to calm this stuff down. It's just, Roger, are they doing this? Let's get back into like politics a little bit. Leave Ukraine alone, because honestly, at this point, I'm feeling like I did when we were talking about COVID and telling everybody this is what to expect. This is what's going to happen. And, we felt like Cassandra, nobody's listening, and we got tired of talking about it. I feel that way about Ukraine right now. So why are they doing this to Kamala? They sent her down to the border. And let me tell you, folks, the border is not better. 136,000 in the month of January. She went to some crappy outpost or Del Rio or something. That's not fixed. And they sent her to Ukraine into this blender, into this Cuisinart, and they just hit puree on her. I mean, why are they doing this to her, man? I mean, I don't feel sorry for her or anything, but are they setting her up for a fall, or is this just all they've got?
So I think there's a couple things. One, I think you have a lot of people that are really out of touch with not only the American people, but the globe, man, the global community. They think, they call it the mirror image fallacy, right? That people will act or people will do things the way that we think that they will do. And so when you see yourself, we all have totem poles, right? So you're like, hey, generally speaking, where you see yourself in that totem pole and where you really are is normally within one or two heads. Okay. So most of us are realistic that way. And with this administration, they think that they're sitting on top of the totem pole. And unfortunately, the rest of the world sees you at the very bottom. And so, my only guess would be that they truly believed that they had enough influence and that the words that they said, because what's the new campaign term now? It was empathetic Joe or something like that or whatever. That's their new slogan that they're kicking out this week.
Is that serious?
Seriously, a heart attack. They're like, hey, because Joe Biden says that he has not been out to see America as much as he wants. So he's been locked down at the White House because of the whole Ukraine situation. So it's like empathetic Joe. And it's like, you got to believe, man. You just got to do it. And so they, one, as we all know, being linguists, it's like, hey, that just never translates over. Like, I don't care how much, like, unless you're speaking the language, the translation just doesn't come across right. But no matter what it is, I don't care what, not just with politics, but I think they believe that they can just go out there and say some forceful things and say some strong words, and that we have enough credibility that people will believe it, and our words in themselves will be the deterrence. And the problem is it's not, because you know what? We said this before, the Afghanistan withdrawal. I mean, that was a train wreck, and now we're starting to see more and more reporting come out of that. They use that playbook. They see the support that they have back here in the States. They see their response. They see what we did to the Taliban. We capitulated to the Taliban. Okay, make no mistake about it. That's what happened there. So if you're Russia, you read into that. You're like, hey, yeah, I'm going to do what I want to do. But the administration just doesn't see them. It's no different than, like, we all sit here. Like, if you're a head coach, right, and you're playing, I've been watching Ted Lasso lately. So if you haven't watched Ted Lasso, fantastic, fantastic series on Netflix. But or Apple TV, sorry. But when watching Ted Lasso, it's like, hey, you had this strategy, and you play this strategy in the first half, and you're down by 2 or 3 points in soccer, or 14 points in football, or whatever else. Like, eventually you have to say what we're doing is not working, and you have to change. And what scares me is, as they get ready to give out the State of the Union address, which, by the way, they're putting up the fence around the Capitol again. It's like, you see, we're at the point where we're at because of your policies, because of your actions, your inability to affect the world stage. And at some point, it's like, you have to see that. And I don't know if it's like just willingly, like, hey, man, I just lead a blind eye to it, or they think they've got some bigger play out there, that this is all going to come together at the end. I think part of it is that. I think the other part is like, well, some piece of me says, well, hey, Kamala may come away with a little bit of a win here. Where they, again, and it kind of, I guess, dovetails into my first point. Kamala may come in with a little bit of a win here, because we're carrying a lot of weight. We're Hank the Tank. We're the 500-pound bear out here, and we're going to push our way around, right? So they think that maybe she's going to go over, and then there's the weight of the United States behind her. Then the other part says, hey, man, there's already a lot of grumblings that they need to find some way to push her out. Because eventually you do have the 2024 run. And I tell you this, I mean, we haven't gotten to this yet, but, Hillary Clinton poking her head up. And the first day she did it, everybody laughed, right? Including us. We're like, oh, my Lord, here we go. Somebody from the DNC said, poke your head up. And now people aren't laughing so much anymore, because as you've had, and we're not going to recover, you can go listen to the other 78 episodes of Culper's Canteen Cup to find out about what's happened in this administration over the last year. But when you look at all of that stuff, now people are like, hey, Joe ain't going to make it a second term. And guess what? Kamala ain't going to make it a second term. And then how do you write off the first, Black, Asian, sub-Indian continent, whatever other box you want to check, female vice president? How do you say, hey, you're not going to be our candidate for the presidency? Well, you make her appear incompetent. That's another piece. But before I kick it to Josh, I did get the White House, whitehouse.gov, they pulled up their little, press release, statement by Press Secretary Jen Psaki and Russian announcement in Eastern Ukraine. We have anticipated a move like this from Russia and are ready to respond immediately. President Biden will soon issue an executive order that will prohibit new investment, trade, and financing by U.S. persons to, from, or in the so-called DNR and LNR regions of Ukraine. Basically what Luke said. The ZO would also provide authority to impose sanctions on any person determined to operate in those areas of Ukraine. Department of State and Treasury will have additional details shortly. Goes on, To be clear, these measures are separate from and would be in addition to the swift and severe economic measures we have been preparing in coordination with allies and partners should Russia further invade Ukraine. So those are the most severe sanctions in the history of mankind. Right? That's what they led us to believe, right? They came out like, hey, you want to do this. We are going to impose the most severe sanctions the world has ever. This is right up there with shock and awe. Like, when's the war going to start? Oh, you'll know when the war starts. It's going to be shock and awe. And then you watch it like, was that shock and awe? Was that nope, not shock and awe. This is going to be shock and awe. So it's you're waiting for the most severe and strictest sanctions that the history of the world has ever seen. And we basically just said, hey, the trade that we're already not doing with the two regions, yeah, we're going to continue not doing the trade over there in those regions. So I'll kick it to Josh, man. That's going to the Kamala thing, like you're talking about. Again, we beat Ukraine to death, but I don't know. What's your thoughts? What Luke asked with Kamala Harris. I mean, was there any piece of you that really believed, not us, because we know that. Oh, one other thing I wanted to throw out there before I kick it to you. We called the timing on this. When the Olympics end?
Didn't they end yesterday or something?
Ended yesterday. Were we not spot on this thing? Come on, man. I need to buy a lottery ticket.
Come on,
what are
man.
What are the odds, Josh, that not us, because we see through a lot of this bullshit, but those on the left, like what percentage, 100%, what percentage do you believe actually thought she was going to accomplish something? And then what percentage do you think is like, we just need to kind of find some way to push her out for 2024?
I don't know. It's hard to tell. It depends. It depends on which news you're listening to, which social media platform that you're staring at. I think the actual power brokers in the DNC, I would say probably 70 to 80% of them are like, we have a Kamala problem. We have to get her out of she's got to go. And I'm talking about the actual power brokers, right? Now, when you get down to, your blue check mark, folks on Twitter, I think there's some of those that truly, truly believe, that she is doing a great job and that she is awesome. I think the percentage of that, those are probably, it's probably 50%, 60%, right? Because you have those people who, no matter what, they are going to buy into it. They're going to drink the Kool-Aid, and go. And you're going to have those folks who are just, they know it's shit, they know it's terrible, but they're just going to hold their nose and go with it anyway. So percentage wise on that, I think it's hard. But I think on the actual power brokers within the DNC and the government, I would say it's probably 80% are like, she's got to go because she's a train wreck. She's an absolute train wreck. As far as the politics, and stuff on it goes, I don't think at this point, I don't know that you can chalk it up to stupidity. I don't know that you can do it. I think in this situation, it was just they didn't know what to do, so they're like, all right, we're not going to do anything. Which, I don't know. Maybe that was best. Maybe it wasn't. Who knows? Me personally, I really don't care about Eastern Ukraine. But bringing it back out to the 60,000 foot level, it just whatever, man. 81 million people. That's all I got to say. 81 million people, if you believe it, voted for this. They voted for this dude who, can't make a coherent decision past 3 p.m, can barely make one before then, just wants his ice cream. And, even his dog. Did you see the picture of him getting off of Marine One with his dog? And so he's halfway to the Suburban and the dog just starts pulling him. And he almost trips and falls, and Jill's got to, run over there and kind of like grab him. Like, even this dude dog hates him. Like, even his dog hates him. Like,
I think about so check this out. So my favorite band of all time in their prime was Queensryche. Most people know them from Silent Lucidity. Okay. But they had, in my opinion, the best album of all time
Better than like Pearl Jam 10? Come
Well,
on,
this
man.
is for me. This is for
Did
me.
you really
We're
just
not.
say
This
Pearl
is not,
Jam?
10.
listen.
10. He said album of all time. Like Pearl
Right,
Jam 10
Pearl
when it
Jam.
came out.
Trying to make
Pearl
a
Jam-
point about Kamala Harris. Okay, calm down. No, check it out. But so their second album comes out. You could say this with Pearl Jam, Stone Temple Pilots, almost any band. Okay, the exceptions are few. But like their next album after Mindcrime comes out, and it's good, right? But I will swear to God, that is the best out. Oh, are you kidding me? They topped the first one. And then Promised Land comes out, and I'm like, this is even better. But as I go back and listen, I'm going to stick by Queensryche because I love them and they're great no matter what. And I go back and listen to them now, I'm like, yeah, these albums just aren't that good. So I think that these people who still like Kamala Harris for whatever reason, even after all these failures, it's just maybe, hopefully, someday, the wax will be removed from their eyes and they'll be able to see, you know what? Yeah, she wasn't that good. I love the fact that she, locked up prisoners longer than they should have and did forced labor. That's great. But, this Ukraine thing, no good. I don't know. I think people tend to stick by what they claim that they love. There's an attachment. There's an emotional attachment there. And admitting that thing, that band, that politician, whatever is slipping, that's tough for some people, vis-a-vis Dan Crenshaw, Ted Cruz, so on. George W. Bush for some people. It's like, dude, maybe I was wrong for liking these people and sticking by them longer than I should have,
But didn't you even know, like in the back of your mind when that second album came out? I mean, even though you wanted to like it better than the first, like, so when Pearl Jam 10 came out, greatest album of all time, right? Then Versus came out, and up front to my, hey man, have you heard this? Holy shit, it's better than the first. But like in the back of my mind, dude, I knew even then, like I knew it wasn't better than the first one.
Yeah,
right.
But you went out and told everybody. Yeah, I'm with you. Metallica,
Pearl Jam, dude,
Guns N' Roses,
Pearl Jam, and U2, and the Eagles, the most overrated bands ever.
Bruce Springsteen,
overrated, garbage, dude. The best album of all time, Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction.
That's another one. That's my point. I think when you look at that album, I think you can look at 16 Stone by Bush. When you look at Pearl Jam's 10, and you know what, you can even make a solid claim that Pearl Jam may be overrated because when you look at the totality of what they've released, you had Last Kiss, that when you talk about recency in the last 2 decades, that was a remake from a 50s song. Yellow Ledbetter, probably one of the best ones out there. But when you look at the totality of what they've released, okay, get it. But no, you're absolutely right, dude. The entire album was good. Like any one of those albums we listen to, is like I can sit down and listen cover to cover. Right. So dude, yeah, I like just about every song on here.
There are 2 types of people in this world, Roger, and tell me if you agree or disagree with this statement. There are 2 types of people in this world. Those who think that Yellow Ledbetter is the best song Pearl Jam produced, and everybody else.
Yep, that's right.
Yep.
Totally agree.
You listening, Robert? I don't care if you're a Ranger or not, dude. Yellow Ledbetter is the best. He'll say, no, it's Jeremy, bro, or something like that. No, man, it's Yellow Ledbetter. Josh?
Yellow Ledbetter just had an emotional tie because, one, they had the video that came out, and then you look in the whole MTV era, and there's a bunch of us that the true, like our generation, the Gen X, we had the coolest names. We have the coolest names or the coolest name for a generation. Like we were the Gen Xers. Like everybody else falls. So it just, dude, it all fit like emotionally and with who we were as a generation, our title of our generation, the music that came out, the grunge, it all just fit, man.
God, I can't believe you guys are getting hyped up on Pearl Jam. It's garbage.
Well, that's garbage.
That was such a garbage bit, dude.
Nirvana was another one for me. Nirvana was another one.
Dude, Alice in Chains, good. Nirvana, good.
I'm with you.
But just Pearl Jam, Eddie Vedder, it's just whatever, man. It's garbage.
Of the and Roger's not going to like me for this, but of the grunge bands, Pearl Jam's like number 3 or 4, probably number 4 for me, behind Alice in Chains, Stone Temple Pilots. Well, I guess that's Nirvana and then Pearl Jam.
It's hard to tell. It's hard to tell because Pearl Jam's put out a lot of stuff, and a lot of their stuff is garbage. And when you look at,
All of their stuff
Alice
is
in
garbage.
Chains, hey, not everybody died from, gangrene and the black tar heron and all that other stuff. So it's like, hey, when you got 1 or 2 albums out, it's like, yeah, I got it. When you put out 20 albums and 15 of them suck,
Hey, who was the dude? There was a guy. He was a bassist for God, which one? He went Green Beret and all that. The Soundgarden.
Oh, Soundgarden,
Yeah. Okay, so
Yeah.
Soundgarden for me is above.
which, by the way, look at Chris Cornell. You look at Chris Cornell's remake. Have you heard the? Oh, dude, I got to send you the link on that. The Sinead O'Connor song, his remake on that acoustic.
nothing
Incredible.
compares to you.
Yeah, one of the best ones. One of the best performances I've seen.
I was going to ask Josh this. I thought about this, and I'm glad you brought up Sinead O'Connor. I was going to ask Josh this. It was going to be a surprise. So, surprise, Josh. Here we go. So, other than country music, okay, no country artists included. Name 1 or 2 of your favorite female performing artists in music. If I put you on the spot, kick it to Roger. Roger's probably got 6 or 7. Avril Lavigne.
So one, and
Sheryl Crow.
you guys can go ahead and and ridicule me for this, but Adele, that lady has a voice. Holy smokes! Like,
hello.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you know what? And I would agree with that, but she's early on, right? Now, what happens when she puts out 15 albums and she's cracked up Whitney Houston?
Well, then she'll be garbage.
Or like, what's the other chick? The fat chick now, Mimi. One married to the young dude, Mariah Carey. Yeah, look at her. I mean, Mariah she had Carey, a fantastic voice, right?
She had the I think still to this day it's the largest range or whatever that's ever been recorded. Yeah. I think, but I lost all respect after what she said about what's his name, Derek Jeter. That was uncalled for, man.
Do you know who the male equivalent to Mariah Carey is as far as the range goes? Has the
Freddie Mercury
biggest range of any male vocalist? Nope. Bigger than Freddie.
Neil Diamond.
Axl Rose.
No. Well, okay, back when he was good though, because he sucks now.
Skinny, coked out Axl Rose, I should say.
Oh, he's got raspy cigarette voice now.
Yeah, and he looks like Hank the Tank. No, dude. So, Guns N' Roses' "Appetite for Destruction," the best album ever. The female artist, I'd have to say Sheryl Crow and Adele. Sheryl Crow's fantastic.
No Tracy Chapman. No Tracy Chapman. No Tori Amos.
Oh, Tracy Chapman's really good. Yeah. Oh, dude, Tracy Chapman's really good. You know what? I don't know that Tracy Chapman. That's a good point. I don't know that she's done a bad song. All of her songs are good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was actually rocking out, whatever you want to call it, during the drive to not only Carlton Zeus, but Tracy Chapman. I had a few of her greatest hits on, and I thought of that question. I was like, I'm going to ask Josh who his favorite, other than country, because he would have gone with Tammy Wynette and Reba McEntire, right? He's probably got a whole handful of female country artists.
Hey, man. Yeah. No, I'd have to say Sheryl Crow and Adele. Probably, but Tracy Chapman, man, can I do 3? If I do 3, then Tracy Chapman's in there too. In fact, I think Tracy Chapman would be better than Adele.
Wow, really?
Yeah, I think so. Just got that sound, man. There's a you guys check it out. I don't know if you guys heard of the Alabama Shakes.
Yeah,
dude.
Yeah,
phenomenal. Buddy of mine, warrant buddy of mine. He was like, because I love Southern rock. I like the Southern rock sound. Big CCR fan. And he was like, dude, this band's got it all, man. They've got this Southern rock sound. They got, there's a little bit of blues in there, a little bit of jazz mixed in. It's fantastic. If you guys haven't heard them, check them out.
Did you send us a link on that before? I think you did, didn't you? Maybe that's where I heard it.
I can't remember if I did. Maybe. Yeah, dude, so, Alabama Shakes.
I know Elaine is listening. She always does. Elaine and John, shout out. Thanks for listening. But your daughter back in the day snuck to Texas Rocks with NXS, Iggy Pop, Guns N' Roses, and Ziggy Marley. What? Like she was 16 years old, 16th birthday. Elaine, what were you thinking letting your daughter go to that concert? Good grief.
Oh my Lord, Iggy Pop. Is that dude still alive?
He was when she was 16. I think he's still alive. He sleeps in embalming fluid, but I do believe he's still alive. But Josh, would you let your 16, if you have a 16-year-old daughter, would you let her go to an Iggy Pop concert or Sex Pistols?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. No.
Elaine. Oh, what do you
You know
think?
what?
Not.
I just did a quick Google because I've always loved the female vocalists or whatever. Dude, like the women kick ass when it comes to being able to sing. I mean, I just pulled up best female singers. You know, Adele's at the top, Aretha Franklin, right? I mean, how you beat her? Lady Gaga, fantastic voice. We talked about Mariah Carey, Beyonce, Whitney Houston, Taylor Swift, Celine Dion. Forgot about her. She hadn't been around in a decade and a half. Tina Turner, Madonna, Christina Aguilera, fantastic range, Diana Ross, Janis Joplin, Alicia Keys. Dude, it just goes on. I mean, they were freaking loaded.
Janis Joplin wrote half of one song, and all of a sudden, she's this damn folk hero. Janis Joplin was garbage. She was not a good singer. She was a good
who else was
songwriter,
garbage?
not a good singer.
You know who else was garbage? Okay, she had a good voice, but she had everybody else like help her out along the way. Was Stevie Nicks? I mean, Stevie Nicks has some great stuff. I love Fleetwood Mac, but man, she was getting Tom Petty to write her songs. She was getting what's his name, the producer to bring her along. Right? Well, yeah.
I'm just glad that
fair
Neil
point,
Young brought rocking, back in the free world back to Spotify, baby. Dude.
Yeah, I saw that. Him and Joni Mitchell back on Spotify. Dude, here's the thing, man. Neil Young and Joni Mitchell, and it started with Neil Young. Neil Young did not give two shits about Joe Rogan until somebody approached him and said, "Hey, we are going to give you some money to go and cause a dust up." That's how it went down. Neil Young didn't give two shits about Joe Rogan. Neil Young, he ain't looking too good. He probably is not rolling in the millions anymore since he sold the rights to all his songs. And he was like, "Yeah, I'll do it for some coin, or a dime bag of weed. Let's do it. Let's go."
Or they might not have even had to give him any money. It's like, "Hey, Neil, we've got this great PR stunt for you," because he might have sold the rights, but he's still getting residuals from every time it played. It's like, here's how you can get a ton of plays on iTunes over the next month, and that's exactly what happened. Everybody's like, "Who is Neil Young?" iTunes, Neil Young, boom, listen to a song, boom, he gets his whatever 20-cent residual or whatever.
Yeah, and Neil Young, he sucks too. Like, even his songs, like none of his songs, people were like, Neil Young. Literally, the first thing I thought, I was like, "Oh man, Neil Young, Sweet Caroline." Oh, never mind. That's not a Neil Young song. I was like, Neil Young? I was like, and then it was like, yeah, you brought it up. It's like Rockin' in the Free World. It was like, really, Neil? Like, really? You're
So are you still sticking by your Joe Rogan thing? I haven't actually listened to, and I had all the opportunity to listen to the podcast. I didn't. I was listening to an audiobook. But have you had a chance to catch any of his episodes since the dust up?
So I'm still sticking by my Joe Rogan thing. I don't think he should have apologized. I think that was the worst thing he did. Did you know that a lot of people are having problems finding him on Spotify today?
Really?
Yeah. So I don't know if it's back up, but for a while it was down. Anyway, so I listened to an episode that he did with a scientist. I can't remember the guy's name. I want to say it was like Skinner or something. But this dude comes on and he basically, and this is post Dr. Malone, he comes on and he's like, yeah, the climate is changing. Yeah, it probably is warming. But it's not warming at the rate that everybody says it is. And he's, and he's like, Coonan, yeah, Coonan. And he breaks down, he wrote a book, put it out and everything. And he's like, hey man, the science is there. And what's key is this dude, this guy was like, all right, man, there's going to be some people that are going to come out that, say I'm wrong, blah, blah. He was like, tell you what, he's like, have us both on the podcast and we'll happily debate. And, Rogan's like, oh, of course. He had his books. It's called Unsettled. So head over to Amazon, check it out. We're not making any proceeds off of it, but go read it, right? Because the science is not settled, because that's how science works. So Rogan's like, yeah, man. He's like, let me talk to this other guy, who's, one of Coonan's, biggest detractors. He was like, yeah, man, I'm going to have him on. We're going to talk to him, and then let me do a one-on-one with him, and then we'll set some parameters and get you both, in the studio, and we'll hash some of this out. Rogan interviewed the guy. The guy came on, and Rogan was like, "Hey, we want to get you on, and you and Coonan, debate and talk through some of this." And the guy's like, "No, not doing it. The science is settled."
Wow.
And you're like, "Really?" And dude, even Rogan was like, "Are you serious? Really? You don't want to debate the guy? You sit here and talk about how he's all wrong, but you won't do a face-to-face debate with him." And he's like, "No, the science is settled." It was like, the science is settled. So are we still putting cocaine in Coke? Are we still using asbestos tiles? Because I mean, that was science, right?
Is DDT still deadly?
Yeah. Are we still like, cutting people to drain blood out to cure an infection? Like, are we still doing that? Because that science was settled too, right? But this guy, and it was like, God, man, it's like that's what drives you nuts. But anyway, I watched that. I haven't seen the new one. I forget the dude's name where he's talking
Majid
about
Nawaz, I think. Is it Majid Nawaz?
Yeah. Where he's talking about the World Economic Forum. Have you guys read up on any of that stuff? Dude, again, man, all this shit that was conspiracy theories, 4, 5, 6 years ago, 10 years ago, everybody's like, "Oh, New World Order." It's like, "Oh, you're crazy." It's like, bro, it's
I'm hoping at some point, I'm hoping at some point that Alex Jones is wrong about some stuff, because he's been right about so much stuff. And then there's a lot of other stuff still out there that he hasn't been proven right on. And it's kind of scary, because you're talking about lizard people and stuff at that point.
Yeah.
I mean, he knows who's pulling the strings, and he knows that most people are followers. It is no different than the Joe Rogan effect, where the people that criticized him never heard the podcast. It's like, what part of the podcast did you not agree with? And it goes back to what Josh said, and we've said it before here. It's like, hey, if I'm taking a stance on a position, and I've done my research, and hey, this is what, dude, and it doesn't even have to be like settled. Like, I can say North Carolina is the greatest basketball team, in college history, right? And I can defend that. And I'll get out there in the forum and say, because they got this many championships and Michael Jordan came from them, da-da-da-da-da. Now, we can argue that, and you can say whatever other school, but by God, I'm not scared to get up on the mic and throw out the data that I have. These people won't even do that. And I don't even care if it's climate change or COVID or anything else. They won't even get up there and say, hey, because anybody else, especially when you look at politicians, you want the free press. You want the PR. It's like, yes, I want Build Back Better. I'm going to get up there every single day, and I'm going to talk for 2 or 3 hours, or however many hours the press wants to sit here and ask me questions about my agenda or my plan, because that is how I'm going to convince the American people, because my way is the right way. They don't even believe in it themselves. And, it's interesting with the Joe Rogan thing. I don't know if either one of you listened to the whole Dr. Jordan Peterson podcast. I'm about 2/3 of the way through it. He calls this. And Josh, if you haven't heard it, you need to listen to it. That needs to be your next one, because Jordan Peterson gets canceled, right? They try to cancel him and this and that, and this is before all this stuff comes out. And Rogan's like, and so it does. I do think it will put him in a different light for you, because he does talk about, well, you know what? If I had, 35% of my listeners come out and say, hey, dude, you're kind of a dickhead and yada, yada, yada. He's like, I'd probably sit there and be like, yeah, I'm sorry, and just move on. He's like, but I don't read the Twitter garbage, and I don't read all the other commentary. He's like, if 35% is like, he's like, well, yeah, maybe I had too much to drink, maybe I did this, maybe I said some things that were off the cuff that pushed a little too far. So yeah, I'm sorry. And I do believe he saw it in that light. But I want to throw it to Luke, because you've got this basketball thing.
Real quick before we jump into that. Did you guys see the Queen of England tested positive for COVID?
Oh yeah.
Did you see what they came out and made a statement on today?
No.
Guess what
ivermectin?
Part of her treatment is ivermectin.
No.
Yes. Ivermectin. Right? The horse dewormer. The science is settled. They are treating the Queen of England with horse dewormer. How dare them? Where's Greta at? Where's Greta? How dare you?
Where's Greta? Where's CNN? Where's Jeff Zucker? Oh, wait. Never mind. Uh-oh. Josh doesn't have much time left. So while I was at my Airbnb, I got a chance to sit down with a good friend and watch basketball all day long. And it was great, because I was feeling a little groggy from the night before. And now we're ramping up to March Madness here, and we're already seeding teams and all that stuff. And got to see some pretty good games. I thought they're pretty entertaining. I texted Josh and I was like, man, Florida State, they're playing Duke, and they're holding it because Florida State was hanging with them in the first half. And Josh is like, "Don't worry, they'll screw it up." And sure enough, he was right. And I got the little comment halfway through from Roger. He's like, halfway, one of the scores popped up, Texas Tech, UT, and he's like, "Oh, Texas Tech, they're actually pretty good this year. I had no idea." And I was like, "Yeah, bro, join the rest of the United States except for Tech fans, man. I'm getting no respect." But Roger, Josh, what are your predictions on the tournament? Like, if you had to call a winner right now, who would it be?
Kansas.
Josh?
I agree. Kansas.
Way to be bold.
I mean, yeah, I agree with Roger with Gonzaga. I just don't think they play anybody. We're watching Arizona play, and whoever they were playing, Oregon was just giving them fits. It's like, dude, it's Oregon, and Arizona's ranked like number 3. So they play out there in those weak conferences. Kansas, I mean, yeah, I guess that's a good one to go with.
Kansas,
I can't think
Kentucky,
of one
or
off
Duke.
Yeah,
Because
yep.
Kansas had a run where they played like 5 ranked teams in a row, and I think they went 4-1. And to do that, they got blown out by Kentucky, like right in the middle of that span. They lost at home, but I mean, dude, you're playing 5 teams like that. I mean, that right there is pretty incredible. Kentucky's playing solid. The fact they went into Lawrence, Kansas, and blew them out, and then you got to remember this is Coach K's last year. Which, by the way, man, this guy was a tyrant. Like, I always knew, he was a West Point grad and this and that or whatever, and he was always a little stern and he didn't show emotions. Like, so I guess there's a book out now or coming out about Coach K because this is his last season. And I tell you what, man, it's you read like some of the former players about how his interaction with folks. Dude, you talk about a tyrant. That is the definition of a tyrant.
Yeah, I saw some of the stuff on him coming out, and dude, it was not pretty. What was the old basketball coach? It was years ago, but like it came out, and he basically like got told he had to go because he was he was damn near abusing people.
Oh, Bobby Knight. I mean, he was
Bobby
Knight.
Yeah, Bobby Knight. That dude was a tyrant as well. But at the end of the day, man, you take those high performing teams like that, dude. Coach K, and you get all. Not saying not justifying it, but man, you start winning, and people come to expect that. And when people come to expect that, you have to make sure that you are winning. And hey, man, if I gotta be a tyrant to win, some people are just they're going to be a tyrant to win.
What's their jobs, right? I mean, that's the thing. Yeah. We look at it as a sport, and it's actually funny because I was watching basketball all weekend with this homeless guy that stayed with me, and my wife was like, she literally said yes. She goes, I have never watched so much basketball in my entire life. She's like, you and that homeless vagabond sat here all day and watched college basketball.
She was a trooper, though.
It was kind of nice, though. It's kind of nice. Well, she's hungover as well. She didn't mind it. So I think we got one more go around. Luke, what's on your plate?
Well, good episode, guys. I want to shout out to Ginger Inferno Flags again. Ben, his work, we've been saying it for a long time. It's come along. It really does keep getting better and better, unlike Queensryche albums and Kamala Harris performance. So head on over and check him out on Facebook. Make sure you hit Culper's canteencup.com. Roger kicked me in the crotch saying I need to write more stuff on there, and he's correct because Josh and Roger have been putting out some really good stuff. So head over there, culperscanteencup.com, and check out the blog, check out the episodes. I think we'll probably use maybe Scout's photo for this cover art. I don't know, but we're gonna continue on with that line. But appreciate everybody listening. Congratulations to Vladimir Putin for taking Donbass and Luhansk without a shot fired so far, and we'll see how that plays out.
All right. So my last thing for Josh closes us out. For those that say the president, because I don't know I guess it depends on the day it is, right? Whether the president has an impact on fuel prices or he doesn't or whatever. But so I was reading today, it says U.S. freezes new oil and gas projects amid GOP suit over social cost of emissions. So I didn't know that they actually had the social cost of emissions that during and Trump used it during his administration too, but I think it started during the Obama administration where they assign a cost of damages created by 1 extra ton of carbon dioxide emissions. Now, what does that mean? Basically, they say, and I'm reading this from Stanford, when calculating the social cost of carbon, the main components are what happens to the climate and how these changes affect economic outcomes, including changes in agriculture productivity, damages caused by sea level rise, and decline in human health and labor productivity. The GOP sued the administration because when it comes to federal oil and gas reserves and leases, right? So private companies can go onto federal property to drill and do whatever. They actually use the social cost of emissions to determine whether they can or can't come on federal property to drill. So I'll actually have to post this link up there so folks can get into it and you can kind of get into the weeds and figure out, because my first thing is like, well, how do you determine that? And then I think off of what Josh was saying with Coonan, listening to his podcast, his was the last one I completed. He was saying that, especially when they talk about all this climate change and the cost of emissions and stuff, they act like nobody moves, right? And a key point that he brought up before, and you guys, the listeners have to look it up. They talk about the glaciers melting. Hey, 125,000 years ago, we hardly had any glaciers. Okay, that's a fact. And going back to look, even the left, that's actually very, in there, they talk about the different cycles or whatever. So you look at the social cost of emissions, he's basically like, hey, you guys act like that people don't move. What happens is places that were habitable now that become inhabitable, well, other places open up and markets move and economies move and people move. Right. And then they'll start to shift as the weather changes, as the climate changes over the course of hundreds and thousands of years. And even with the metric that I think he threw out, I think he said, if I remember correctly, Josh, and maybe you remember, it was a 2% change over like the course of 100 years when you look at like economic impact. So anyway, going back to this, the GOP sued them. So now the Biden administration said, fine, you want to sue? We're just freezing it all. Freezing those leases means that private companies can't come drill on it, which means that you extract less domestic crude oil, which makes us more dependent on OPEC and also reduces, since I'll use Jen Psaki's term, crude oil, it's a global commodity. Well, this globally reduces the amount of crude oil that's out there in the system. So I'll post a link up to it, but it's one more thing that's like they're shooting themselves in the foot. This stuff here will probably fly under the radar, but something good to know. Josh, take us home, brother.
All right. So real quick, last thing to talk about real quick. So the Minister of Defense of the Russian Federation just came out and said, quote, "We have no borders with Ukraine. We have borders with the Americans who are pumping weapons and nukes into their puppets in Ukraine," end quote. So, like Luke said, this is not over. It's not done. It's going to get chippy. I'm just really glad the adults are back in charge. And, we have a competent president with a proven foreign policy record to, lead us for the next at least 3 years. So, hey, a couple quick shout outs. Hey, Lauren in North Carolina, really appreciate you listening. Shout out to Tyler up in Northern Virginia. Shout out to the Ryans up in Northern Virginia. Mimi, really appreciate you listening up there in occupied territory as well. Hopefully you guys get your school board straightened out. It looks like parents are starting to push back and doing the right thing. I really think they crossed the Rubicon when they really started messing with the kids, and people are slowly but surely waking up. Let's just hope it's not too late. So that'll do it. That'll do it for us. But again, big thanks to Culper, to Carlton Zeus for the intro music. As always, big thanks for you guys listening. Thanks, Joe, down in Florida, always providing that candid feedback for us and keeping those lines open. Hopefully, we can get down there and see you at some point.
Colby,
call me.
No, so. Colby. Sorry, I got your name wrong last week, brother.
Terrible. So, all right, that's going to do us for this episode. Until next time, you guys keep those canteen cups full and tightly secured.